causing havoc.
Hey, how the hell did you get a haircut?
I didn't. I brushed my hair.
Oh, you brushed.
This is just, I groomed. Oh,
Okay.
the thing I wanted to show you.
I groomed.
I groomed myself. I don't know if you can see it from here. I'll have to spin. Look at my wall. You see that?
Oh, awesome.
Those old
Perfect.
cameras?
Yep.
They were my wife's grandfather. He had a bunch of these old cameras.
Oh, cool.
And we got them. So it was kind of cool. But they're like really old school. I got like a couple other ones. See, I'm a big dork. I'm wanting to show you cameras. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you know, I took the time to put another one out there. So who's the bigger dork?
There's this.
Right.
Look at this, has directions on the back on how to open it up.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know this?
Yeah, absolutely. They had to put directions on them. I mean, come on, nobody knows what they're doing.
I don't even know how to open it. Oh wait, here we go. Here, look.
Hold on a sec. Let me see. Oh yeah, no, the bell is. So that's just like this one up here. Can you see this guy up here?
Oh yeah.
So it's just like that, except for that's a much more modern version of it.
Yeah, it's a plastic. Yours looks like it's like wood or something, or leathery.
Yeah, mine's here. Hold on, so you can see it all.
Mine that's beautiful.
Is a wood. I think it's cherry wood, if I'm not mistaken. It's very pretty, and I've taken almost no pictures with it.
No, that's beautiful though. Look at that.
Yeah, it's cool, and it's good to play with those things and stuff, but it's really not my thing. I have to admit, there's lots of tools in the world, and there's reasons to use it, and I know the reasons, and I like it, but I tend to work faster and
yeah.
Yeah.
And now that's an interesting topic. But look at it. Have you ever heard of this? Yashica?
Yashica. Yep. Yashica. It was a very popular camera back in the 70s and 80s. Absolutely.
No, we're gonna
They died.
You know what? We should just do that. I should take down all these old cameras, and you can just riff on the cameras. And then there's this thing. It's got the little view thing in the top. That's a weird one. But you touch them, and they feel like they were made by Fisher Price. Exactly. They're just boxes. They're just boxes for light.
But honestly, that's all it is. I mean, this is a box right here. The little box is in here, and this just focuses the light on the little box. So photography, when it really comes down to it, is just simply a little box with something to focus the light on a panel. That's it. That's the beauty of it. It's camera obscura.
So I'm going to start this a little differently. I'm going to start this a little differently now, because I've been recording our conversation.
Great.
So
that's
I haven't really introduced you yet, but I do want to include what we just chatted about, because I think it's interesting. Because you're showing your
only if you'll bring in Deb yelling in the background.
Well, Deb was yelling in the background. I might have to edit that out, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Hey, this is my show. So anyway,
do what you want.
Anyway, this is Aaron Mays, an old friend. We go way back. He's very talented, creative, I know. And in this town, he really, when we first met, I went on a photo shoot with him one time, and it was fantastically fun. We shot a SWAT team, and there was smoke bombs, and there was guns, and there was busting into doors. There was a plastic baby that they were rescuing from a fire. There's all sorts of insanity going on, and that was a great time. And he's an incredibly talented photographer. He's well known in the area, and he's a teacher, and he's got incredible work out there. And thank you for taking the time to talk to me here, Aaron. I appreciate it. And
thank you.
And I love talking. Far too kind. I love talking to you about the arts in general, and I think that you're an old soul about what it means to produce and create art, and the techniques and the technical side of the art is important. And even for this interview, you wanted to understand a little bit more, wanted more structure, and I didn't give it to you because I'm a jerk.
Which is what makes this all the more fun.
Yes, because chaos. I love chaos, and
Exactly.
and I wanted to throw you in the deep end a little bit on this thing, but you wouldn't be, because you know what you're doing. You've been thrown in the deep end plenty of times. So anyway, why don't we just do the official introduction? So can you tell people a little bit about yourself, and let's just go from there.
Sure. My name is, as Alex said, is Aaron Mays. I am current position is curator for visual materials at UNLV Special Collections and Archives, which is a wonderful community archive of, well, everything historic in Las Vegas that is basically two-dimensional documentation dating back to the very founding of Las Vegas. And, you know, it's a wonderful place to work. My job here is not on the creative end as much. It's kind of three different pieces. Part of it is providing technical support for our digitization process, which we're trying to digitize, you know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of documents and photographs and all different stuff. And so I help them get that stuff through. I collect other photographers' work, whether it be someone who is a professional or someone who just, you know, their dad was a hobbyist around town back in the 40s and 50s and took lots of photos. And those are the kinds of things we like to bring in, because it gives a very raw picture for people, no pun intended, for people to look at Las Vegas history through the way people who lived here saw it. And then the final part of what I get to do here is create and build my own collection around subject matter or subjects that we are working on. In particular, or for instance, I should say, we had a collecting initiative a few years back, started in 2016, called Building Las Vegas. And it was basically just trying to get, you know, all the materials that we could find around town and that people would donate to the university from the major construction and the huge boom of, you know, the 1980s, 90s, and early 2000s. So my photographic collection is really about the built environment in Las Vegas, and I did a big exhibit around it, and those things are available online now for people to research, and then they'll be there for hundreds of years for people to look back on and say, oh, what the heck were they thinking when they did X, Y, Z? So that's kind of my job here in a nutshell. You know me from all the way back in the day when neither of us had gray hair, and we you know, I was working at the Henderson Home News as a writer and photographer, and then I moved to Las Vegas Sun for a decade, and then over at the university as the university's photographer for a little over a decade, and then I've ended up here at Special Collections and Archives. So that's kind of my career in a nutshell.
Well, that's a big nutshell. That's good.
long time. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I'd love to just ask you this question. What is photography, Aaron? But that's such a big question, you know, to ask. But it is interesting to me because it's a lot, you know, and I know this falls into writing too. I mean, but there is a line between art and journalism that they meld together. And I think even the art becomes journalism because it is a true record. If it's a photograph, it happened, right? So,
well, mostly, but of course there's areas of that
Photoshop
that aren't quite right. Exactly.
Okay. Well, yeah,
but
I know
that goes way back.
Because no, but in general, in the purest form.
Sure.
I mean, I got in trouble at the Home News with Paul Zadelko when it was a cover story of a kid, and he was swinging. I don't know if you remember. He was swinging a ball at you might have even taken the picture, and he was missing. And I took the ball and I moved it down so that it looked like he hit it.
Yeah.
And he lost his mind.
Oh, yeah. No. There's an old saying: you can't mess with the gravy, and I'll leave the expletive out of that because, you know, in journalism, you know, everything is about the truth, right? So, but getting back to your question, your original question is what is photography, and I have a very, very simple answer for that.
Okay.
Communication.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go.
Pure and simple. It's communication. Mm-hmm. It is as much communication as the written word, as sitting here and speaking to you. If I show you something and I can't communicate an idea with it, then I probably shouldn't have said that, and that goes in the garbage, right? Same thing. You know, you write a story. So go ahead.
So you, as a photographer, your job is to capture moments, right? And you're communicating. Okay, you might not. Tell me if I'm wrong. Interrupt me if you think I'm wrong or if you debate. No. But you're capturing a moment, and then you're sharing that moment with the world. So, are you a conduit for a moment, or are you the creator of the moment because you took the shot, because the moment dissipates and it's gone usually, the one that you're taking.
I think there's room for all of that. In journalism, you're really supposed to be the conduit. The stuff that I do for my documentation work at Special Collections and Archives is definitely more conduit. But that doesn't mean that there are not illustrative purposes and illustrative sides. Clearly, someone like Jay Bailey or more popular, Annie Leibovitz or someone like that, they're not conduits in the traditional sense that what you see in front of you is the true thing. But what they are is a conduit of an emotion, of a feeling, of an idea. And so, the different genres build on different things, I think. And I think that there's room for all of that. I don't think that photography or writing or anything anything creative in those senses has to be pigeonholed into one category. I think it can depend on the person who's speaking. It can depend on the platform that it's used in.
Right. Art in general, I mean, the intent of art should be to move you in some way, right? The intent of art is to move someone to think something or to on their own. I don't think the intent should be to make people think something. I think the intent should be just to make them feel something, more than think, I guess. And
Sure.
I think it's really interesting because when you look at like the Pulitzer Prize winning photographs and the power of these photographs, these aren't staged. These are photographs that were captured because someone noticed or put himself in a place where he could or was ready to notice a thing. How many hours, I wonder sometimes, our photographers have they just wasted waiting for the best shot for something? I mean, I imagine there'd be a lot of hours there, right? I mean, sometimes, especially if it's specific. I mean, let's just say you're a wild nature photographer. You can't make the wolf stand in the sun and the hill.
Right.
It's like you have to. That shot is hard to get, right?
Right. I think a lot of times. Go ahead.
No, I don't think that's my original point. My original point is basically in terms of the intent of a painter painting something. Most modern painters that are that are abstract painters especially aren't really interested, or at least I don't know if you heard my talk with Tom, not interested in you really understanding what he is trying to say. He's more interested in you taking a moment.
Getting a moment and getting a feeling from it, right?
And I think that happens with photography a lot, right?
I think it can.
Yeah.
And it depends on the genre, and it depends on where it's being used. I think has an awful lot to do with it. I mean, you don't necessarily expect to pick up the New York Times and just get an emotion from an image. There needs to be something a little bit more there, but sometimes that of course crosses over where something is so blatantly emotional that it comes across that way. Good photojournalism has a lot of both. It has the information. You think of Nick Utz burning Napalm Girl from Vietnam era.
Oh, yeah.
And that has an incredible amount of information, but it has far more emotion in it.
That look on her face.
So of course the look on it, and you can go from you can take it from the look on her face to the complacency of the soldier just kind of having to deal with it himself, just kind of walking through the scene. There's all different kinds of things, and then people of course bring their own emotions into imagery. And I think that's where art and photography blend well together, is when you can use photography as a paintbrush, as just basically a tool in the same way that you would any other kind of style.
Right. It's like the famous Tiananmen Square photo. It was in front of the tank, right? That photo was an interesting moment that was captured that nobody knew would ever be captured, and thank goodness it was, because it ended up being a powerful time. It's the still shot of the Vietnam or Viet Cong soldier executing men in there. It's right at the moment. It's enough to where there's a violence in that shot, and there was no blood in the shot too, which was interesting. It was incredibly violent, and there was no blood in it, and it was a capturing of a moment that just feels like it was drawn out through the entire war.
Right.
With that feeling of that
what
moment.
I find interesting about those kinds of images is that we've been so separated from it, and we're not shocked by, you know, back then it was like, oh my gosh, you could see the bullet coming out of the gun of the general that Eddie Adams photographed. You know, there were technological advances that were kind of wowing, you know, that this picture that Nick took in Vietnam was on the front page of newspapers the day or two after, you know, whereas in World War II, you know, it took several days for things to get to places. But the thing that I always find most fascinating about it is the separation from the people, the viewer, and the baggage, if you will, or the attitude or the understanding that was in that moment, that was changed at that moment. If that makes sense. Those images actually changed the tide of people's thoughts. Think about images from the Selma March and how the video images that went out, and people getting sprayed and you know, beaten with batons, how that changed America's attitude towards you know, it wasn't just these black people who were complaining about everything. It was, oh my gosh, look, they're getting beaten. Why are we beat? Why are these guys getting beaten? You know. So those moments where the imagery, whether it be stills or whatever, can change the tide of humanity and American culture are just really incredible to see.
See, I love that.
But I mean, I guess my point is, if you take away that knowledge of where they were at that time and you look back, you don't have that same impact. I mean, I always try to put yourself in and imagine, you know, seeing, picking up a newspaper and seeing the Hindenburg explosion, how that would have made you feel. I mean, you're just coming off of their flight, you know, wow, and all of a sudden there's this disaster that's unfolding right in your hand, and you feel that. And I mean, that changes the way you can see the world and imagine things happening or not happening.
I think that's power. I think that's a powerful way to look at it. It's true. And I think sometimes that people who appreciate art are living within a system sometimes that doesn't, or doesn't understand, yet it is influenced by it. And I think that, you know, at the same time, there's this value that people think it's not as important, especially like in schools and stuff like that. But I've always lived by the adage that I do truly believe that art does save lives, and not like a switch. It's more like pulling a boulder up by a rope from top of a mountain, right? It's getting closer and closer, and each stroke is maybe a feeling that we're all cumulatively trying to head in a certain direction. I think it like photography, art in many forms captures feelings in moments, like Pablo Neruda and a lot of his political poems. I mean, he was, you know, killed for what he wrote. So and there's so much, you know, artists have been persecuted and killed because they had the courage to express things that the powers that be didn't want expressed. There's a reason for that. It's because people are moved by passion of things. Because if I'm suffering and I see that suffering in a piece of art, there's a powerful connection with that voice, and that causes me to feel like I'm not alone, and it causes me to possibly act. And I think that that's important. And I think that there is a responsibility that people who are active artists have, that we all kind of feel sometimes. And I think that's why we're slightly narcissistic in that we'd like to share our work as much as possible.
Right.
Because, you know, it's not coming from narcissism. That's not the right way to put it. But it's coming from a real need to be part of the story. As like, what was the line from, you know, Dead Poet Society, from Robin Williams? You know, it's our chance to offer a verse to the sonnet or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
You know,
a continuing conversation. Sure.
Right. And I think that's really important, really powerful. I'm glad that you said this, because even though we've never really talked this deeply about art, I've always sensed that you were this kind of person that agreed with me on this thing. I don't know why, but, you know, but I've always sensed that we were kind of heading in the same direction,
Right.
career-wise, in different boats in a misty ocean, but we're heading in the same direction. Every once in a while, I'll say, "Hey, Aaron,"
towards the waterfall.
You towards the waterfall. No, we're not there yet.
Right.
We're getting there, but we're not there yet. Eventually, we'll get there.
Well, I mean,
But,
I think that you're correct. I think that art is a conversation through the generations, whether people like to see it that way or not. It clearly is. People didn't start scratching on cave walls because they just found a piece of
right.
Charcoal to use. They started scratching on it because they wanted to leave a message. They wanted to say something to somebody else.
Keep a record.
That human condition, right? To keep a record, and that human condition, and that that dates back to the earliest men, and it will continue on. And so I think a lot about, especially in the collections that I build here, what is it that I want to leave on? What is it that I want for people to know as we move forward? From our time here.
I'm sorry, for a second I thought I wasn't recording.
Okay.
I was like, oh my God.
No.
I've been recording.
Aaron, we got to start over.
No, we couldn't start over. This couldn't be recreated just on the fly. But I apologize for the interruption there. No, I agree.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I love the idea of the cavemen were the first photographers in a sense. I was just on a hunt. Let me, capture that moment so that my kids, I can talk about it with my family and my kids and things.
Absolutely. And you can go through, from the cave walls to the frescoes to canvas in Rembrandt's age, to Pollock throwing color wherever he can. Everything, it's all a part of that same conversation that we have. And what it all means is up to, kind of up to each individual a bit. But it builds upon itself, and it's incumbent upon the next generation to make sure they stand up and they say, this is what I want you to know.
Whenever I have an opportunity to talk to a young person who's because I don't know if you've ever done it. I don't know if you do things with the Chamber of Commerce, but I did this thing called I Can Be, which is a bunch of professionals that go out to high schools, and they basically have all the kids come out and talk to a bunch of professionals in different industries. And I was always in the arts section. There was a marketing section. I never went there because there's so many, you could throw a rock and hit a person in marketing. But in the arts section, there didn't seem to be a lot of people that either, because I think it's like, oh, I wouldn't call myself an artist, so I don't want to go in the art section, that kind of thing. So I would be there. And of course, I got a lot of kids coming to me, and I got to talk to them. And a lot of them were like, what do you want to do? And it would go from, I want to be a glass blower to anything. So it was like so many different things that the kids wanted to do. But whenever they were photographers, they'd say, I'm interested in photography. I go, what kind of photography? And they go, I don't know, because they don't know. They just
ones with cameras.
Right. I go, yeah, and I say, well, where's your camera? And they go, oh, I don't know, I got it at home. I go, you got to have a camera. I said, you're
losing right now. Yep.
You can't say you're a photographer and not have a key. It's got to be part of who you are, because you never know when that's going to happen. Right. And I tried to express. I said, do you have a phone? And they're, yeah. Does it have a camera on it? He goes, yeah. I go, well, there you go. Because then it's not about the equipment, because the equipment gets better and more intricate, but it's about the intent that you have is still now active. Did you take pictures today of anything that wasn't just of yourself? What did you take pictures of, and why did you take it? And I like telling the story of my wife, because my wife is an amateur photographer. She takes we have tons of pictures all over the house that she's taken. And I remember when we were in Italy, and then I told this. I already said this story before, but in case nobody saw it,
it's a good really story. Quick. You should go for it.
Okay, real quick. So she was taking a picture of a wall. We were in Italy, and she was taking a picture of a wall. And I remember not seeing. She might as well have been, just doing this.
Right.
What are you looking at? And then I was. And then later on, I'm going through all the pictures, and there was this beautiful picture of this textured wall. There was a bicycle wheel in it and stuff, and it was like the light hitting it. Then I saw it, and it's interesting that I don't. And I'm a creative guy. I'm always looking for that kind of stuff. But I think photographers have something special in how they're wired, in how they see things. Even you were framing the shot.
differently than you saw them, sure.
Yeah, but but I think that, so tap into a little bit of that. I mean,
So, okay.
How you see things?
Let me section it up a little bit, because there's a couple different parts in there. And the very first thing that I do, because I do mentor students here at the university, and you know, friends of friends and all different kinds of stuff. But my number one thing that I tell them is this. It's very, very simple. If you want to be a photographer, you have to shoot every day. There's no other choice. You have to shoot every day. You have to carry a camera with you, whether it's, you know, your cell phone, or, you know, a little camera like this, or whatever it is. You have to carry one with you every day. It's got to be around you, and you need to use it. You know, the older you get, some days, you know, it's like, you know, okay. But if I go a day or two without shooting some pictures of something, of some substance that I like, or that I'm just like, oh, you know, let me try that, I don't feel good. I actually physically feel bad.
Right. I know what you mean.
You know, you just have to do it. And so that's the first thing I tell the students, or anyone who's interested in being a photographer. All the rest of the stuff, what equipment to buy, you know, what lens you should do what with, you know, it matters not if you don't carry a camera and shoot something every day. So
that hunger, you know, that hunger is important, right?
Right. But I think it goes. Actually, this is probably a good segue into the second part of what you're trying to get at, which is the exercising of the creative muscle. It's the hunger to do it, but it's also the fact that you have to build into your work processes the creative process, right? It's like scientists can't look at something and not think of a hypothesis, a test to test it, and a way for somebody else to look at it to say it was right or wrong, right? That's just the way they think. Creatives have to do the same thing. You know, you have to find things and look at things, whether it be as something as simple as, you know, as the mouse on your desk or something like that, and look at it in different light and to say, what does that look like? You know, or how can I make that look, or what can I turn that into, or what can I do with that, right? But it is that process of building in the creativity into your regular daily routine, into your basically every breath. That really helps people stand out. And I don't know that I've ever gotten there, and I still strive for it every day. Great artist Chuck Close was talking with a group of students from Yale University, I think, was where I was watching this from, and somebody asked him about, how do you stay inspired? And he, you know, grumpy old guy, you know, BS, you know, inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us have got to get up. Yeah, the rest of us have got to get up and go to work every day. And what he's not saying that you shouldn't be inspired. He's just saying you can't wait for inspiration. Right. If you wait for inspiration, you know, that job's on down the street and somebody else has got it. You know, you have to build inspiration into the way you think, work, and play all the time. And if you can do that, the more you can do that, the more successful you will be. I still haven't gotten to where I'm happy with that formula in my life, but I'll get there.
You know, it's funny because I told you, I think earlier, that I had I was on a Zoom meeting with a bunch of young artists, graphic designers, showing portfolios and giving. Right before this call, I had a call with one of them who called me back and wanted to show me more of his work. And I said the exact same thing to him that you just said, where, you know, when you're trying to look for inspiration, like you said, you know, the blank slate issue, you know, a blank piece of paper in front of you, and you don't know, I'm waiting for something to hit me so that I can get going. No, you're waiting for the idea to hit you. You're waiting for you're trying to get to the message you're trying to send immediately. There is no such thing as a blank slate, because none of us are blank slates. We have an entire lifetime of everything. So whenever I see somebody who doesn't know how to start a project, an art project, I say, it doesn't matter what you do right now. Your mind it will carry you to where you need to be. You could start writing about a stapler. And as you're writing, eventually things will start to come to be, and eventually you will be on the path to where you need to go. The trick is just working. And those of us like you who have worked on deadlines, who know that you can't wait for that lightning bolt to hit you, understands that there is no lightning bolt. There is no external inspiration. It's already here. You just, you know, everything. It's like Pablo Neruda. I just brought him up before. My favorite poem by him is Enigmas. And he says something to the extent of, I am the empty net that has gone ahead of human eyes, dead in those darkness, a finger accustomed to the triangle longitudes of the timid globe of an orange. I was like you, searching for that endless star, and in the night, in my net, I woke up naked. The only thing caught was a fish trapped inside the wind. And what he's trying to say is, we're always throwing these empty nets out into the world, trying to capture ideas, bring them back. And when we open them up, we see ourselves, because it's our own ideas that we're growing.
Because we're already here. Right.
Yeah. So, and I think that was a very long way of explaining that poem.
No, absolutely.
But I think that is so important for people to realize, is that you're carrying with you every moment, every conversation, even our conversation. So you said things, and I've actually felt goosebumps with some of the stuff that you were saying, and I'm thinking that's fuel. I've got fuel now. And from your words, it's what we're all feeling, is from each other, as we get this.
And I think people fall into, especially younger artists, if you will, they fall into that gap of, I went here and because I had this idea and I thought it was great and it would work, and it worked out, right? And that happens. Those inspirations do come, but the problem is that as life goes on, they're never going to come when you want them. So you have to work into how you work. You have to work in a way to capture them and to nurture them into your workflow and put them in your backpack, if you will, so you can pull them out when they feel right again. And it's a more of a mental note. Some people I've seen, they take notes all day on different things. I think that's pretty cool. I know, there's artists who carry around sketchbooks. So, all of a sudden you'll be in a conversation with them and they're kind of like going off and they just kind of do this really quick and then come back to you. And all it is they're just note taking. And but the point is that it's really important to build that into your process of life, because life is going to run you over. And if you don't keep up with your creative side, if you don't feed that beast, then life becomes, far less enjoyable.
Yeah, it's always about the voyage, isn't it? It always ends up being about the trip. And I'm going to slightly disagree with something you said earlier when you said, I'll get there eventually. I'm searching, but I'll get there eventually. I don't think you will. I don't think we're supposed to.
You may be right.
I don't think
you may actually be right. Yeah.
I think that's you enjoy the trip. You're enjoying the search. If you found it,
I'd agree with that.
Where do you go from there?
Exactly.
Yeah, our old friend DJ Allen. Actually, I got to call him because I want to do one of these talks with him.
Absolutely.
DJ, I remember he was, he always had so much drive, and he was always he was beating himself up all the time because he never felt like he.
We were always trying to figure out what he was on.
Right. One time I told him, hey man, you got to come down off the cross. We need the wood.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
But he, he had such a big heart, and he had such high expectations of himself, and he frustrated himself so much in so many ways.
Absolutely.
And I kept telling him, man, sometimes, you're driven because you're climbing that mountain and you're taking the next step, and then all of a sudden the mountain disappears. It's not gone. You're just at the top.
Right.
That's what happens.
Now you got to find it. Now you got to find a bigger mountain.
You got to find a different mountain.
I got to find a bigger mountain then.
You're done with, and he's great at finding new mountains. That's for sure.
Exactly.
So I think that's what we do. But anyway, but there's I think that's fantastic. I think that there's a lot of, this is going to be a really good one. I'm going to suggest this to a lot of people to watch, because I think that you've tapped into a lot of really cool stuff. It's not just about photography. It's about, even though that's what you do, but I think that that's just your medium, but everything else is so relatable to anybody who is creative in any way.
Absolutely.
And so what just because I'm getting close to, where I'm probably going to wrap this up, but I was just curious, why photography for you?
I think it's mostly because I just kind of fell in love with the process. I really dig when I can put something out, and it used to happen a lot more in the magazine days and newspaper days, where I'd go to a coffee shop or something and see somebody, peeling back the pages and looking at it, and I love to see where they stopped. I love to see where they spent their time, and what actually grabbed them. So I think photography did that more because I could gauge that better, I think, even. I started as a writer, and I kind of fell out of love with writing because of newspaper work. It was very formatic for me, and I wasn't able to stretch there, where photography was not confining in that way. So I don't know that I have a really good straightforward answer as to why photography, but it bit me at one point, and I've been in love since.
Do you have rituals? Because I know a lot of photographers have their different ways of approaching, because it's just like an instrument, a musical instrument. It's the manner in which you play the instrument. The instrument could be, there's
Sure.
a lot of different instruments. It's the manner in which you approach them. Do you, I'm throwing questions out at you that you.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I was going to, but I'm wondering, do you have rituals that you?
I really don't. There are a few things that are process oriented, depending on the type of image that I work. My work is so varied. I mean, I can be in the middle of nowhere photographing landscapes, or I can be in a boardroom with the board of directors, directing them. It depends on what it is for and where it's going. It would kind of change my process a little bit. I think in general across the board, I would say that light is the first thing I'm looking at. I'm the very first thing I'm doing, no matter where I'm at, if I'm out there or in a boardroom or whatever. I'm finding the light first, or where I have to create it. Then I worry about the people and where they're going to go, or how they're going to look, or what I'm going to do with them. If I'm doing some of my building Las Vegas stuff, I'm worried about, I'm not out there at noon. I'm out there at sunrise, and I'm out there at sunset, because that's what gives it the most shape, unless I absolutely have to be out there at noon because something is happening at that time. So those are kinds of processes that I would say are general to everything that I do. But portrait work is very different for me, at least, than say architectural work or documentary work for something like building Las Vegas.
Well, this was like a really fascinating talk for me. I really enjoyed it, and I think this was great. It was kind of exactly what I was hoping for, and I knew I was going to get.
Oh, good.
The other side of this is I'm going to be wrapping up, but I'd like you to. Is there anything you want to promote, or anything you want to share? Is there like a website that you want to share with people, or anything like that?
No, not really. I mean, UNLV Special Collections and Archives is a wonderful place. If you're into local history, it's a great place. Digital.unlv.edu, I believe, is a portal to what we have available online. And just go and search out your community's history. If you've come here from other places, or if you are just a Vegas fanatic, there's a lot in there for you, whether it be documentation or imagery of different types. My work is kind of, it really belongs to the community. I really don't own any of my own stuff. I don't really maintain a heavy website. I have the aaronmays.com, but it's just what I've worked on the last and put it up and
yeah. But if people wanted to contact you, let's say somebody in the media, I'll make sure your information's there for them to be able to. And then I think that's important. Anyway, you're a good man. I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you very much. And
no, thank you, Alex. This has been fun.
Yeah. And hey, and I'm supposed to say this. I'm going to have to say this on all of them now. Like or subscribe if you like. I always screw up the word subscribe for some reason. Go ahead and like and subscribe and do the thing that you guys do. I guess it helps me out some way, shape, or form. Or not. It's fine.
Absolutely.
If you like this, I don't want your help anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
don't contact me.
Don't contact me.